council open and open with a karakia. We have one apology so far from the mayor. Are there any others?
I think we have two others.
They're not on the committee.
Hmm?
They're not on the committee.
Okay, good point.
No others?
Rachel,
Rachel's on the committee.
she is. Rachel Round,
Okay.
she's got the floor as well.
Okay, can we have a mover and seconder to accept those apologies, please?
Alison Murphy,
Thank you, Grace.
second.
Thank you, Jane. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you. Conflicts of interest. Any additional declarations that committee members wish to make at this time? Take that as a no. Public forum, I assume we don't have anything today,
As you see.
right? So that takes care of that. So we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting for 12 November 25. I have a mover and seconder that they're a true and correct record of that meeting.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Steve. Simon, would you second?
Yes, happy. Yes,
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the first item, which is item 7.1, the audit plan.
Good afternoon, Sefton, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending. We've just going to open up with the Audit New Zealand items on the agenda. And the first item is the various audit plan, audit engagement letters, and the various arrangement letters, etc. And it's all about I guess, your approach to the upcoming year's audit and so the arrangements for this year and those in the ensuing 3 years going forward. And probably maybe just a little bit of elaboration around the fees. It looks the fees are only set now for the first year in the 3-year cycle. And that's, I guess we've got the transitions to water that's happening at the end of sort of the middle of next year. There's certain factors leading up to that. So I'll probably just open the floor to yourself, Sefton, for any comments around the arrangements, the interim audit that we've just passed, and we're sort of leading into the final audit going forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, the audit plan for 2025 sets out, as you mentioned, the areas of risk and proposed responses. There are only 3 areas that we actually identified as areas of focus, and that was around the fair value of the infrastructural assets. We also, which is just an assessment against fair value movements. That's a standard approach, and therefore we didn't foresee any issues other than an assessment of assumptions and estimates. The second one, I believe, was around the core area of focus that we always look at, which is journals. That's an area where management can always influence the reporting results, and local water done well. This is really to see what progress, just keeping up to date and keeping abreast of developments, and making sure that any accounting and reporting implications were considered earlier or sooner rather than later. We've also put out our proposed timeline. The interim audit has been conducted. There are no issues arising out of that. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring forward our audit conclusion or timeline. So we've still got a time that's pretty similar to last year. However, we're hoping that we will be able to clear by mid-October rather than down to the wire as we did last year. We've got the same team, so that'll help as well. So there'll be more consistency, something that we've not been able to do in the past. I think that's the key areas, and everything else is covered in the papers in front of you. Did you want me to also just speak very quickly about the audit proposal letter, which sets out our fee?
Yes, please.
Yep, it is set for 1 year only because we're not sure of what will transpire in the coming 2 years after this. So there is a thought thinking that certainly by 2028, the shape or look of council and the services that we're required to audit will be dramatically different from what it is currently. And so rather than set a fee that we then go back and try to revisit, we will just assess the fee or set the fee with yourselves, obviously, in your agreement based on the changes or developments that have occurred within council. And the last thing we had there was the audit engagement letter, which is just a standard engagement arrangement for 3 years. The Auditor General has appointed me for the 26, 27 and 28. I thought I was just coming in for a year and going back south, but it looks like I'm with the Wairarappas again.
Right. Do any committee members have any questions of Sefton about these documents and his comments and Mark's introduction? Steve?
I just have one question. I don't think it's very important. In fact, it says it's not. But I just wonder what's meant by a clearly trivial threshold.
It's a auditing term that auditors, in sharing that information about materiality, to say what they consider to be clearly insignificant, which they wouldn't bother about.
So anything under 35K, they don't pay any attention to. Yep. So I'm going to
Insignificant.
Yes.
No. They're still concerned about the controls and systems.
Okay.
They would say anything under 35,000 is lost in roundings. Any others?
Yep, I had a question with regards to on page 29, it talks about that it also means we do not assume what was true last year remains true this year. I'm just wondering, with regards to that statement, does that mean that our Castle Rock investment is likely to be a stumbling block again this audit?
Certainly not. Like, it won't be a stumbling block again. In arriving at the estimates last year, we worked with PwC. As long as the information that was provided last year, because we've got a methodology now that actually circumvents the limitations that we faced, and we believe that unless the values dramatically change with the audited accounts for LP investments, between what was captured last year and what is was included or the value arrived at for the audited accounts, we don't foresee an issue.
Fantastic.
Any more questions? Okay.
Sorry, I just had one other one.
Yes.
Page 40 of the report. This is in the letter to Steve, the Officer of Auditor General. I couldn't get the link to work in the document where it's talking about appointing auditors and setting the audit fees. I was curious to know if when the audit fees are set, it's based on the actual staff hours in the actual that specific job that's required, or if there's a variance depending on the council and how difficult the accounts are from one council to another, or the size of the council, or should we be comparable hour to hour with, say, our neighbours north and south?
You should be slightly below sorry, I shouldn't say anything. It should be comparable with your neighbours
Yeah.
around you in terms of size, complexity. That's almost a one-for-one comparison, especially south.
Yeah.
And you know the sizes of your relative councils. It should be able to give you a good indication as to the fees that you probably would get and where they would sit relative to one another. But going back to your question, when we do set the hours, those hours are set based on perceived complexities, perceived scope of work, and so you would see a natural relationship between size and, say, the Wellington councils with a few additional matters and things that they deal with. They would have a little bit more in terms of hours and fees that they would have to, that we would require to complete their audit.
There's also quite an extensive moderation process that the Office of the Auditor General do apply. So we just don't accept what's put up by Audit New Zealand. The OAG do an extensive benchmarking and checking process. So you can have confidence that there is some pushback, as it were. So it's a bit more extensive than Septon said.
Correct. Thank you.
No further questions? Recommendation is set out on page 15 to receive the report and the various attachments and to recommend that the audit proposal letter and the engagement letter be signed by the Mayor. Do I have a mover and seconder? Thanks, Jane.
Second.
Thank you, Simon. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Sefton. We'll now move on to item 7.2, which is the audit management letter for the F25 audit.
So on the back of each audit, Audit New Zealand put together a paper that outlines their observations and recommendations arising from the audit, and whether previous recommendations have been carried through or they are passing on and carrying on going forward. So that's outlined in the attachment, and there are 3 medium and I think 4 low recommendations, and management's just outlined their comments, given their comments in terms of the resolutions of those and where, at what stage of the process they're at. Would you like to comment anything further on those, Sefton?
Just very, very briefly. It is a good management letter in terms of outcomes and the things that we're reporting. If you compare a 25-year to the previous report and findings, there's been a lot of improvement made by management to address the points, and the issues that we've found are really at the lower and medium scale as opposed to the prior years. And I think 2 of the big matters that had been raised in the previous year were related to the qualifications as well. That was comprehensively dealt with by council.
And just for the committee, one of the attachments is the 23-24 audit letter, and that was really just put in there just to highlight the recommendations and the issues that were raised in the prior years. Just they were all closed out last year.
Big improvement.
You were happy with that movement? Yeah.
Any questions from the committee?
Yes. The preliminary audit that you've just done, Sefton, did that deal with any of the issues that were raised regarding last year? Or
we will do a follow-up of those in June if we get the opportunity. But nothing that we've looked at so far indicate. We've just completed that review, so we've still got to go through the file. But from what I've heard from the team, there's been nothing that they've flagged to me that needs to be raised again or addressed early at this stage.
Any others? Okay, can I have a mover and seconder then for the recommendation to receive the report? Thank you, Grace. A seconder, please.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sefton.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll ask my departure now, if that's all right.
That is, and just so you know, with me being new, I don't like surprises. So if you need at any time to get in touch with me, please do. I'd rather know sooner rather than later if there's an issue.
I will do that. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you, Sefton. That's great.
Thank you,
Thank
Sefton.
you. Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Thank you.
So we move on to 7.3, Emergency Management Risk Report.
Thank you, Chair. In a koutou katoa, I would just also invite Simon Taylor to speak to the report, which was penned by him. So, but just to introduce Graham for your first meeting, like Masterton. So this is a standing report for our committee that Simon will bring and present each time. So we'll leave it to Simon.
Good koutou. So from the Emergency Management Risk Report, I'll take it as read. There are 4 areas that I would like to just highlight that since the report had been submitted. We had a significant weather event between the 15th and 23rd of February, which impacted the whole of the Wairarapa, but in particular South Wairarapa. So I work for the Wairarapa Emergency Management Wairarapa, which represents the 3 councils of Masterton, Carterton and South Wairarapa. So they had more impact in their roading, and so they have opened a recovery office, and that recovery office is in a 28-day transitional period, and post that it is likely to continue on for a few weeks while they manage their roading issues and some of the psychosocial community isolation issues. And I'm also continuing to work from a recovery perspective to support our other isolated and rural communities, which includes for Carterton, the likes of Flat Point and other areas that were cut off, so we can work out how to support them through a similar event in the future. It totaled around about 60 people rolled in through a 5-day shift at the Emergency Operations Centre, which was in Greater Wellington premises in Masterton. And we had about 33 additional people. This were liaisons and field staff. Of note is 23 field staff. We had Landsar, Māori Wardens, Red Cross and USAR representatives working with us through the event. So this is probably one of the bigger ones that I've attended in 3 years that I've been in the region. The second thing I'd like to point out is that the Wellington Region Emergency Management Office, REMO, have been working through a group plan for the region. They have been consulting with a huge number of groups through both Wellington and Wairarapa. That plan has now been formed and draft, and it's been put out for consultation as at yesterday for, I believe, a month. So this has now gone to the open public so they can review the plan, and the plan is for the period taking us out to 10 years from 26. So this is another significant step forward. They are obliged to put it out for consultation, but it is nice to see a plan that involves so many people from our wider communities, including business and youth. The third thing I'd like to highlight is that we have now started, we're setting up the scope for a diesel supply study for the Wairarapa. It's focused on diesel. It's been conducted by a doctoral student out of business at University of Waikato, He is going to be focused on the supply and prioritisation of diesel. Should we have an event that prevents us from being able to move north and south for anywhere up to 3 months. So what supplies are in the region and what the prioritisation for the usage of those supplies are is likely to take 12 to 18 months. And once it's published, we'll be able to share that back to this group. But these are great ongoing reviews that are available to us. These people are brilliant at getting in and providing us with a better risk understanding of what our environment is like should we get cut off for an extended period. So it is restricted to diesel. We focus just on diesel as opposed to petrol because we can see that, good proportion of the emergency services are using diesel, but we need him to focus on one area and then we can expand on that report later. And lastly, I made a reference in here. Ministry of Primary Industries held a workshop in November 25 called Cloven Shield. It was to do with foot and mouth disease. It involved a number of organisations across the lower half of the North Island, of which the emergency management team in Wairapa were invited, and along with other council members. It just highlighted the significance of foot and mouth should it arrive, and the engagement processes and some of the risks that we need to consider as we are participating and supporting in whichever capacity we're being asked to. So it's good to know that we are getting that recognition and that engagement. And it's also good to know that somebody's looking out, and particularly in that particular industry, for such a serious disease. Outside of that, I shall ask if there are any questions.
Questions? Great.
Yeah, I had a couple. One was with regards to the implementation roadmap and all these year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, these
Yes.
lots of things that you've got on the agenda. I just wondered how much of this work program is reliant on you personally in terms of our risk. Is it all shoulders?
No. At this stage, I'm facilitating a number of these activities. So I'm facilitating risks through the groups like the Wairapa Engineers Lifelines Association, some of the key risks. I'm working with the councils and in particular HR here at Carterton to work through the people component, particularly the training required and what we're actually looking at. So many of these are actually wider than just me. As a facilitator and coordinator, it helps to have a bigger pool. Otherwise, the 3 to 5 year strategy will never get completed. Yeah. So no, I am not a sole resource. I do have access to a number of people who can help and support this.
Fantastic. If I can add, so just having the resource of Simon doing that leadership and that connection is what's been missing for quite some time. So we, across councils, but even within councils, all have different parts of the puzzle. Yeah. But to bring those together in a cohesive way, particularly around risk identification, absolutely. Yeah. To actually build that picture, we've been lacking that ability or capacity sometimes. So yeah, amazing to have this resource.
Awesome. I had one here with regards to page 117, talk about a key issue for staff working in the EOC has been inability to log into the rem.nz from their devices and finding ways around folders, templates, forms. I just wondered, I've not been in one of these situations, but they all seem quite admin heavy type things that I would imagine after a dramatic event could be tidied up later. Is that incorrect?
It's not incorrect, but there's a number of things that we do at the time. Yeah. So, but what I was pleased about is during the event, people actually overcame their fear of what was there, and they actually just got in and did. Yeah. We were very fortunate to have the Remo specialist team come over. They've only just been formed, and so they sat within each of the function desks that we had, say, for an example, logistics. They sat within that team and provided the guidance that they needed to get on and do what they needed to do and gave them the real focus. Yeah. This is significant. In the past, we've had artificial exercises and people haven't really been sure. Now they can see that a particular planning document or a particular tasking document, how it is actually used to support the other functions, and in particular, passing it out to the likes of our welfare team, who then go off and work with people in the field.
Yeah.
And so it's actually it's horrible to say, but it was a real bonus having an event that gave us the
Right.
ability to be practical about how we use the systems. I get frustrated because people do say they get confused about it.
Yeah.
But in an event, most people were actually very comfortable and just got in and did. So I think there's something else that we're having to face, but we've got 3 to 5 years to overcome the majority of it. But I think we can do a lot through just induction and regular training to give people that confidence.
Awesome.
Just following on from that, from the recent weather event, and as you say, you can do all of the trainings, but this was a real world experience. It might be too early to to look at this, but were there any sort of gaps or learnings that you noticed that to kind of bring through from that real world experience?
Yes, so one of the things, each council has been running its own internal, what I would call a hot debrief. So it gets the people who are involved, and they are able to sit in a room with an independent person within council and just talk through their experiences. This helps us identify some of the key issues that people faced. Generally, that hot debrief focuses on what didn't go so well, and that helps people download.
Yeah.
Then we have a formal process which is going through on Thursday, where I've got a colleague coming over from Wellington from the Remo team who's going to do a formal work structure with each of the council staff involved in each of the locations, so that we can capture some of the bigger picture activities. In addition, we've also got a survey that's gone out to all staff that were involved and those who are also supporting the EOC to cover off some of the key details around, what went well, what didn't go well, what do they think. And I have been privy to some of the information, and boy, we're getting some really good feedback.
Okay.
So personally, what I noticed was we have an expectation that council staff who perhaps sit in a library location, or they might sit in the rates team, or they might sit in the risk team, we have an expectation that they will be able to come in on day one in a high pressure environment, work through for 5 days, and then just drop out and then go back to their normal day-to-day work. That's not true. We found that people were starting to burn out. Some people lasted 4 days, some people lasted 5 days. A number of people lasted 2 days. We're actually quite burnt out. And if I could say, at a level of traumatization that, it was so different and so radical. And we were talking about people's lives. People were cut off. How do we get food to them? How do we get medication to them? And there's a different sort of pressure. And so this is why the strategy is 3 to 5 years, to help us understand and build what we need to do to help support people, both existing council staff and new staff coming on board who will be involved in an emergency management environment. That was my key learning about people. Everybody's willing to muck in, but different people have different levels of comfort about what they can cope with. And we did have some pretty horrendous situations, but it certainly didn't help with the media, some of the media reports, which undermined the really good work that our teams out in the field did around delivering food and medication.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you.
Simon's quick question about, just interested in the diesel store that you're going to have. Is there any idea of, one, how many litres that would be, and whereabouts would it be stored?
Not necessarily having a storage, it's understanding what our current capability is and where diesel is currently stored.
Okay.
And having a look, and that might be a recommendation at the end of it.
Yeah.
But we're working with fuel companies who view the delivery of fuel differently to the way we view it as a key resource that required in case of
So
emergency.
those who already dispense, say, diesel, might keep a reserve, always keep a reserve?
During a state of emergency, the controller, whoever is the controller, has the right to stop all general sales and then prioritise any fuel usage to key partners. So we might prioritise it out to police, we might prioritise it out to ambulance, or we might prioritise it out to any vehicles able to transport food and other supplies around the region. So that's going to be a crucial one for us.
Okay, so we're not looking at a separate storage facility as such.
At this stage, we're looking at what do we have, and that could be a recommendation at the end, which would then come out to how to follow that.
Yeah.
Simon, do you share your learnings with other districts as well? We're seeing a number of weather events being experienced throughout the country. I just wondered how free was the exchange of information and learnings between the various.
So from a recovery perspective,
Yes, well, from
is one aspect.
from every aspect, really.
Yep.
You know, it seems to me we don't want to see everyone learning from the same mistakes happening over and over again. I just want to know how much exchange of information goes on.
Quite significant. So from a response perspective, the controllers, they're looking to run a similar program as the recovery managers. Recovery, we meet once a month across the region. And from this, the January and the February event, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, are coordinating calls with us every week so we can talk through what are our issues around what's happened, what's recovery. And we do share. So at a REMO level, they share out across the other regions. I independently talk to other regions frequently, and we're talking daily through weekly, about some of the issues we're facing. Are they very similar to them? But recovery, we're a much more collegial group, and we do talk and work together as we represent issues back into central government. So I think it's improved significantly over the past 3 years. Cyclones Hale and Gabrielle certainly gave an impetus to the smaller councils to engage and participate more actively, because the hit on them is quite significant, and they just don't know how to proceed. A lot of resources are shared. We've shared a huge number of resources out to other councils that we developed through our recovery process, as we also borrowed from the likes of Tairāwhiti, Hawke's Bay and Auckland to build our resources. So it is quite collegial, and we're all trying to work towards the same goal.
I just had one other question and a comment. I thought the submission was great, and I really appreciated the stance taken around putting pressure or onus back on the government to provide funding. If this is going to be a core business that councils need to be up to speed on, that there needs to be some money to come with it. The question I had was with regards to our region, and we've got our 3 different councils who are all mucking in together. From your perspective, are you happy with each council and their performance and how they all pull their weight, or is there concerns between us or our neighbouring councils, and what kind of incentive or stickers there to make sure that we're all up to speed on where we need to be?
That's why I've been brought on board, is to work across the 3 councils to build a coherent and consistent approach to emergency management. Previously, it was managed in more of an ad hoc way because we didn't have the events and the frequency. But I can assure you, across the 3 councils, it's taken extremely seriously. And as a deliverable of council, it has always been there, but it may not have had the focus as in the past. But, you know, we are getting a lot of encouragement, particularly at the mayor and CE level, to continue with the work that we're doing. And, you know, with the expertise of the staff, with the training, there's a really strong focus on ensuring people have the right training. So through the work that Jerry's doing with her counterparts, and also the work at an HR level with their counterparts, what we're trying to do is standardise and give people that competency so that as a council, when an event occurs, you can be reliant upon the team doing the work, and you're out there with your communities and able to feed back information and use your mayors to pass the key messages back out.
Thank you. Any further questions?
This doesn't relate directly to your report, but I just wonder if you've had any contact with Michael Wilson from ROFM.
I was meant to meet Michael last week.
Okay.
One of my team got COVID, so we've postponed it for a couple of weeks. We're in active communication with the Breeze team, or the MediaWorks team, and we've been using them to disseminate media messages along with Radio New Zealand. And with Michael, we're wanting to investigate more of the specialized communities that his radio station serves. And so he's really keen to participate and do a lot of translation work and support what we're trying to achieve. So when something happens, it can just be rolled out. So I'd say I think we're meeting not next week, the week after, and then we'll start building that relationship.
Yeah, because I think they've got a kind of the access radio stations have got a national sort of chivvy along to get involved.
Yes.
He's getting himself a new generator.
Oh, no, he's doing a lot.
Yeah.
And so what we're wanting to do is provide the support we need to, but also have another avenue, because it's not, we deal with a number of channels to communicate. We use a lot of social media, we get onto community pages, but there's a particular type of group that listen to his radio that we may not have access to because of language barriers, and we're really keen to investigate that.
Thank you. Do we have a mover and seconder for the recommendation on page 100? Thank you, Simon. You, Grace, all those in favour say aye. Against, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Simon, were you responsible for the noise I got on my phone?
Yes, I helped write a lot of that. Hopefully it didn't cause you the same issue as another person who said, I almost had a heart attack, but it came out on my phone, my iPad, and my computer, something other device that they had
All at the same time.
at the same time. And she was rushing around the house trying to turn it all off. But it was effective because it got the message out. Yeah. But I'm
Probably
glad
the most effective, isn't it, for something really urgent?
it's a mechanism to get out quickly. And at that stage, everything was deteriorating very fast. But anyway, I'll leave you to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
Right, that brings us to item 7.4. Ricky?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Right. I'm Ricky Young. I'm the climate change coordinator here at council. I take it you've all read the paper. Some people who read the paper said it's traumatizing. But what I'm trying to do is actually to show that the risk that we have on the risk register is really well founded. The risk tools that we have, the simple likelihood and consequence risk tools we have probably aren't enough to think about climate change, because it has all these other dimensions to it as well. That time dimension of as things get warmer and climate changes, those the amount of water coming down at any single point in time is going to be greater, the wind gusts are going to be stronger, it's going to ramp up as those temperatures rise. And it's useful to point out too that the trajectory of the, you would have heard about the 1.5 targets that most people think that they're going to be missed now. And considering what's going on globally at the moment, that's a high likelihood. As decision makers, you just need to think about what's coming down the line when you're making decisions. So not just what's happening now, but those changes in 5-10 years' time. It's good to follow on after Simon, because what a number of councils are finding is that they're having compounding events one after the other. So Tasman was an example last year, and you can see that up north too, where they have a weather event, another weather event, and they haven't even finished tidying up after the first one. That's likely to happen more often. And the scenarios indicate that there'll be a point in time where most councils will experience they can't keep up, whether that's just operationally or being able to fund what's going on. And that's likely to happen in the next 15 to 25 years. So when you're thinking about decisions about which road or which bridge or whatever are being worked on, you're going to have to make trade-offs. Part of the job those trade-offs are going to have a greater and greater impact. But there will be communities that are cut off. How fast can we get them back on? I do have a workshop with you all on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, talking about climate change. So I'll go through some of the details and more, some of the components in more detail, especially those scenarios and what they're saying. Also, I understand some interest around solar, so I'll do something around that too. But also want to talk about the context that we're operating in, not just Charterton here, but the global context, the New Zealand context, and all the requirements that sort of filter down to local government. So you can see that, you know, we're a small council. The changes that we make are part of a bigger picture. So people are saying, you know, if we're trying to scrimp and save on our emissions, it's actually part of a bigger picture, and we have to be part of that, a component of that. So this was really just to give you a bit of an update. One of the things I really want to emphasise is those secondary impacts from climate change, not the immediate damage, but things like the environmental impacts, the social impacts. They're actually going to be more damaging than to the community in the long term than the immediate physical damage that goes on from climate change. And as we move forward, we need to keep that in mind as we plan and help our community with that. Any questions?
Right.
Just with regards to, not specifically in the paper, I appreciate the paper, with regards to our workshop, will we be looking at the change in our climate profile, for want of a better word, with the fact that our wastewater treatment plant, which is where all of our pollution stuff happens, is not going to be on our books, and how that impacts the decisions we have around our forests and harvesting and all that kind of stuff?
So I'll talk about our emissions.
Yeah.
So about 92.5% of our emissions, annual emissions, are tied up in water and wastewater.
Yeah.
So that changes our profile hugely. We are carbon negative at the moment anyway because of the forest.
Yeah.
So what happens is that as the forest is set to be harvested, it will turn into carbon positive at points in time as the trees come down.
Yeah.
So there's a conversation about what happens with the forest that used to happen. I'll unpack some of that. So where do our emissions actually sit? And what would remain once the water is split off.
And another point that I highlighted in your report was at different points in time, we need to address different pressing issues, e.g. when do we talk about relocation or managed retreat? And I just feel like that's such a hot button topic, but it seems like something that we need to discuss and not avoid, because when we've got communities in coastal areas or in known floodplains, what's our liability if we continue to let people build in areas where they shouldn't be?
And so this is where our regulatory team is so important in providing that advice up front and making those decisions and calls around what people can and can't do. And we know the flood challenges that we have. We are kind of lucky as a district in that we have one coastal community really. And the bigger problem is the access road in the near term, just that cutting people off. The sea level rise component for Black Point, the sea level has to rise basically 2 meters before it actually starts challenging the houses. There's a whole lot of ifs and buts around that in terms of storm surges and what have you. But that's what the modelling is showing. So we've got a bit of time there.
Yep.
So yes, I can talk through some of those hazards.
Steve.
Yeah, I'm on page 140. Just looking at that picture of the flooding in High Street and the.
Was that your car?
Yeah, well, just learning to drive then. And, yeah, you know, Carrington Park tree, well, Carrington Park's not there actually, it's way down further.
Mhm.
Who did that?
Sorry, that was supposed to be more of a score.
Yeah. Memorial Square, yeah. And
Apologies.
also the same page, that flooding map there. I just find there's areas there that are covered with water, which it just won't happen.
So these are the flooding maps, so there's two flooding maps there. The first one is the one that we linked to from our website. It's the one that the regulatory team points to as well. The second one is the Greater Wellington Regional Council one, which is a more detailed one, the one around the wastewater treatment plant.
I just see the ponds are down by State Highway, you know, like.
Yeah.
They're sort of up quite high there, I've got them covered in water. I just don't know myself.
So I'm not an expert in the flooding. I rely on what the regional council does. So the regional council did a very in-depth study about the flooding of Mamangatū.
Probably just giving you false information though.
It's good to sense check on the ground about all of these things, because as the scientists from the regional council say, this is from high level data and sort of local conditions could change the stuff we've got today.
Yeah, you know, like up Lincoln Road up by the rail line there, you know, that's not going to flood like there, like I've shown. And also down closer, I know there was flooding down Darfield Lincoln Road area there. But just above that, there's water there, but there's never going to be water there.
So there's one historic photo that I was tempted to put in here. It shows the railway station platform underwater.
Which station's that?
The Carterton railway station.
Oh, Carterton itself, right.
Yeah. I've seen that one too. Yeah.
So there have been events in the past where there has been severe flooding, even in areas where in living memory you may not recall them. The thing to remember too is that these are what they call one in 100 chance, so 100-year flood.
I'm nearly there.
But that doesn't mean that that's the worst that could happen.
I just find some of the might be a map they've taken from the sky and they will fix the water out on the map, but they don't realise the contour of the land.
And what the maps don't take into account too is the drainage systems. So one of the things about the photo in the late 1940s is that the drainage system has become a little bit more sophisticated since then. And the drainage system, that's part of that whole avoiding the worst. So that needs to be maintained, and that rolls into the other side of town, into the water races. And so all that stuff needs to be maintained to reduce the risk.
It's interesting from what Steve's saying is that it does need to be challenged because this is going to affect people's insurance. And if it's on a false premise, that's not good.
So this, so the insurance companies have their own system. And I know other councils have been trying to access the maps and what they've been using. And they are much more detailed than these, and they go right down to the property level. But because they're all commercial entities, none of the councils have been able to access that, even though they've been trying. And the insurance is a real issue. It's an issue for everyone. It's going to be an issue for council here as well. If we have multiple events over a period of time, will we still be able to be insured as well? So just we've had the roof come off the event centre. If that happens 3 times, we're going to be able to be insured. Those kind of things are things that we need to keep in mind. And this is where we need to build to a level where we're comfortable that they are going to be able to survive some of those extreme events.
Like you say, the flooding in 1940, it's different now. Things have changed,
like drainage.
in, like Lincoln Road, there's a stormwater pipe in there. You can pretty much walk down, no one even knows it's there. But that drains so much water away from it. And then not in 1940, no.
Question for you, Ricky, is this is our Carterton plan. Is there a, like, the combined district plan that we have? Do you have a combined climate plan with the other councils?
No, so I liaise with environmental officer at Masterton,
Yeah.
and we catch up every couple of months. But there's nothing
formal about it.
No, and there's no designated person in South Wairau.
Right, only in Masterton.
Yeah. And so there's no cohesive or integrated plan. The combined the proposed district plan is actually really good on around climate change, and the principles at the beginning are very, very strong. So that signals that we should be good to go.
Because we shouldn't really be too siloed thinking in our own area when if a river floods, there's a lot of people affected, not just us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because this climate change paper is actually central to other papers in this agenda. Like we're talking about insurance later, we've just had emergency management, and it was great to hear. It sounds like things are really moving forward in the emergency management space with that combined plan. But it feels like climate change is actually the step for like the actual causative factor. So that would be really interesting to think that we could move forward in a way that's less siloed, as you say. I had a bit of a look at the central government national adaptation framework, which is only, I think, in the beginning stages. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think there's like you've obviously got some ideas on that, but yeah.
So the central government documents under this current government are much weaker than previous. So there's not a lot in that framework.
There wasn't a lot
for us to hang stuff on.
No. Okay.
Yeah. But given that there has been a lot of events recently, and this is an election year, I am expecting increased policies which will be more front footing in the climate space.
It would be nice to have something centrally that we could actually be in alignment with. And I think I'm looking forward to the workshop on April Fool's Day. I think it'll be really I think there's some really big picture things to look at, because in some ways the world that all of our systems are designed around kind of like doesn't exist anymore, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So there's some really big decisions around planning for the future, as you mentioned, Grace, trade-offs, and ultimately like the financial sustainability councils and how we're going to actually do that. So I don't think we'll get that all done in one workshop, but it'd be interesting just to even just start that discussion and even so that as we go into our long-term plan, we can, or our plan discussions, we can at least have that in our mind. Because if we can make some far-sighted decisions now, it potentially will set us up for being in a better position in the future.
I agree. Some of the analysis that we've been working on is showing that, doing the right thing around mitigating our emissions or reducing emissions actually is financially beneficial. And so if we're thinking about the cost of the ratepayers going forward, if we actually set it up right early on, it's going to have ongoing cost reduction going forward.
Like we've already been doing with the solar power, it actually is more cost effective at saving emissions. It's better for ratepayers. It's actually win-win. So there are some. It'd be interesting to try to be finding those solutions and just trying to find that halfway through.
Any further questions? There's not. So I have a mover and seconder for the recommendations on page 147.
Want to do all three?
Sorry?
Are you going to do all three?
Do you want them done separately?
No?
It's getting some
Only if you're not going to move.
So is the committee comfortable we do all three at once or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you
I'll move, yep.
move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Which brings us to item 7.5, wastewater treatment plant headworks project procurement.
Yeah. Mayor, councillors. So the paper is to outline the process that we've gone through for the headworks. That title is to be debated. Inlet works project. So we went through a two-stage procurement process. First stage was a sort of EOI, express of interest. And it was a fairly broad in terms of we just outlined what we wanted to achieve in terms of this is what we've got, the raw wastewater coming in, and this is what we want to achieve, and let the contractors come up and tell what the best sort of solution is with the known budget. And from that, we did an evaluation for the different tenders that came in, and then basically came up and ranked them, and eventually the top three were invited to put together a tender. So the tender we outlined, and we had three categories. We had the non-price, so we listed three, separate quality in terms of what the outputs from the treatment plant had to be achieved. Basically just an improvement, and we did it as a percentage in terms of so what you've got coming in compared to what you've got coming out. So a reduction in your BOD, so your biological sort of load, suspended solids, and also what the dry solids was out of the sludge, which is of benefit for, particularly for the sludge, for what we end up doing with it, without defining any particular requirements. Whole of life cost, so we could evaluate if there were something that was really cheap but really expensive to run, that would be benefit, and then the price. So those are all evaluated again by a similar panel, and then basically all the tenders came back below budget, and we have awarded it to SEEP Construction for 5.2 million. So that allows a little bit for our own costs and project management, as well as contingency. We'll also outline that they do have a contingency within their overall cost as well. Any questions?
How many did you tender to?
There, we went out to the market, so basically put on gets, and anybody that was interested were came back with. So there were 4 original, and we went through with 3.
Okay.
So basically, what we'd received, any of the contractors that actually or put in a proposal would have probably achieved what we wanted to do. So
yeah,
fairly confident that we'll get a decent product.
And you're confident they all had expertise in the area?
Yes. Yeah. That was that sort of first stage where we evaluated personnel that were going in. So the second stage, we also did get them to reiterate if there have been any changes in the 4 months since they put the proposal in.
So Lawrence, you've got two contingencies in here. They've got one and you've got one.
Well, I say it's a contingency in terms of we've got a budget and we're under budget, but we'll have a separate project management cost as well as our own cost in terms of evaluating there and doing some optimization and detailed design.
Can you remind me what the budget was? Was it 5.8 or something?
5.7 something, yeah. So there's sort of, yeah, 500,000 for our own sort of costs.
Christmas party.
It'll be gone. Sure, we can find something else for you. No, it's still.
What controls are going to be maintained over the council's contingency?
In terms of, so we'll be doing the project management. We'll be making sure that we look after it and keep an eye on the, so we've got a professional services contract with a consultant already. So they've just been outlined in terms of their scope. And yeah, it'll be within this. I mean, we probably could bring it back to this as we go through.
No, I was just,
Check it.
yeah, I think in my experience, it's critical you have strong controls over contingency.
Okay.
Otherwise, it just disappears.
Yeah. At the moment, we haven't really put it in as a contingency. It's basically just, this is the budget.
Okay.
But we'll go back to the project manager and say, well, project what the project management costs would be.
Yeah. I've also seen a number of projects that have just gone hideously over budget.
Mhm.
And so it's another reason to have tight controls. You've got to really follow through on these, otherwise they so easily run out of control.
Yeah.
But do you see that coming back to governance as such?
Well, it's something the committee might like to consider, but in my experience, strong governance pays off.
Mm.
And particularly on projects, because when they go wrong, they tend to go horribly wrong.
Yeah. And I would be saying that the consultant will be acting, they've only just been given the contract management. So they are engineer to the contract and they are independent of the council as such.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other thing too, just related to that is the company that's won the tender, they've got a good reputation of delivering to time and budget, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
The contracts that they've put in the tender, we did check those references in terms of those budget and time.
The bad thing often that happens, isn't it? The scope creep that starts to come in.
And I think that's one thing.
Variations and things like that.
Yeah, that's why it's raised about the importance of controls over the contingency money, because some contractors see it as a game.
Yeah. I'll win it on this price, but I'll bring in some variations.
Yeah, but that's also because we had the 3 separate contracts and they were of a similar in terms of the inputs and outputs, but they were different in terms of the different equipment and that they have. So they were all, and I think I did include the price difference between the variation. So they were 5.1 to 5.5. Yeah. So not a massive one where you'd be obvious that somebody has bought it by going way lower.
I agree.
And that's also why we did evaluate the quality in terms of we're going to achieve, and that's part of their process guarantees at the end of it, which they'll be evaluated against, that they're achieving those reductions from the inputs and the outputs.
Have we worked with them before?
No. No, there are more experienced up in Auckland, but they are involved in a project in Wellington. So there's sort of setting up or expanding the office down lower North Island.
Right, I'll set up an office here.
They've set up one already for a project.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have a question. I'm wondering if this is the right number. 79% was listed on page 150. Is that the expected load difference? between the new system or not, or is that?
No, that was just the overall evaluation of the quality parameters, the non-price parameters.
So what's your expected load difference in the new system once it's going? How much less sludge is going to be ending up in the ponds? Do you have a?
In terms of the actual reduction, they were guaranteeing a 70% reduction from inputs to outputs. And that's in line with what you'd expect from those sort of process units.
Yeah.
The main benefit for the successful tender was a piece of equipment which, in the same piece of equipment rather than a separate one, you're already achieving your drier solids. So it means that we're dealing with less water and recycling of pumps and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Lawrence, was warranties included in the terms of reference and things?
That's a standard one in terms of for the pieces of equipment here. Right. So predominantly from the supplier that they're coming through, and that's 2 years at the moment, but we'll be looking at whether or not we expand that.
Okay.
Is there any potential issue with regards to the situation in the world at the moment and shipping these parts over here from the other side of the world?
It is one of the risks that I sort of highlighted, that it is coming from one of the main pieces of equipment is coming from Europe. So that has been highlighted. Yes, however, it'll be treated as potentially an EOI, but we want to make sure we outline and guarantee what they've got confidence in the piece of equipment and order it right at the start. So we're not expected to start on site until September. So we've got sort of 6 months to start the ordering process.
Yeah. Who carries the exchange risk?
Again, that was updating. I think that would be an EOI if there is a massive change in terms of those exchange risks. So yes, that is a risk on the council at the moment. So, yeah. Now it could be, I'd have to check that, to be honest.
Okay.
It might have been one of the ones that they've done it, but we've got that cost as of February, so it shouldn't be.
What's council's policy on hedging exchange risk?
I have
not your pay grade.
Some of my side my expertise, to be fair.
I don't think there's a policy per se.
I don't think we don't have that many foreign exchange transactions.
Yeah.
So consider that, but I would take some time to research.
Is there a local government thing that helps councils out here, in terms of doing hedging?
No.
Okay.
It might be worth coming back to the committee at the next meeting with where you've got to, Jeff, because I think that would be it at the moment.
That is, and as I said, it was, I think when I wrote the paper, was sort of at that earlier one, you're going, is it going to blow over quickly or not? Or, but yes, that is one of the, and it would be in any of these projects, that shipping time as well as risk, and likely it might end up being diverted by a different trade route.
No further questions? We'll have a move in a second to receive the report.
Move.
Thank you, Grace. Second. Thank you, Simon. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you for the report. Which brings us to the risk management update, 7.6.
So regarding the risk framework, we've got the risk framework and the risk register that's been tabled as annexes to the document. We haven't, I guess, with the new triennium and the cycle and bringing Graham you on board as the chair for the Risk and Assurance Committee, we haven't, I guess, reviewed that since I think November last year. So I think it was prudent for us to table it as it sits. We've got 31 identified risks, 5 of them are strategic risks. And a suggestion would be to possibly workshop it between now and the next risk and assurance meeting and put them back on the table again and to see whether they are indeed what we see them to be as
Yes.
the strategic risks, or in that order, or whether we feel there should be something.
Yeah. Might be a good idea to also establish council's risk appetite
Mhm.
and the direction the risk is expected to move in.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a good idea to shop.
So we can set up a time for that. Who's on that?
Sounds like a good idea. Let's do that.
Is that something you'd be involved in, Greg?
I can be.
I think last time the independent chair ran a risk workshop.
Mhm. I got a
and
chocolate.
Council determined their risk appetite.
You're the good girl.
That's my recollection. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean last time.
So would you bring chocolate?
You bring chocolate, you got the job.
Sometimes it's better to have an independent facilitator, but the chair of the committee sit in and contribute. I don't know.
It should be someone who's got a good understanding of risk, experienced in it.
It's rapidly changing at the moment.
Yeah, one of the things as I was looking through it that stood out was the emergency management. And we've got it there at 8 at the moment. And I just wondered if, given the last couple of years of being on council, I'm wondering if that should be higher on the priority list now. Seems to be a more common recurrence. Yeah.
Well, we're having increasing number of events, which we've been told are 1 in 100 year events within 5 years, which is a bit hard to understand.
Yep.
Okay. We'll put out something for that. We've also identified some emerging risks that we see going forward. The main one, probably in the short term, is the local waters done well transition. There's a few factors around that, especially in the terms of the delivery and potential compromise of the service to our ratepayers through that transition. So I guess there's a watching brief on that as we go through the various work streams and work through that at the moment. And maybe prudent just to have a look at the plan B or plan C at the back of that.
Yes, because if it goes through as planned, there'll be a much smaller council, which may have risks attached to that.
Just on that, because that was something, one of the points in the audit New Zealand meeting earlier. I'm just wondering, has the council already considered or had advice on the potential treatment of the water assets under local water done well in terms of accounting? I guess like how have you? Is there like a high level plan of how that's all going to be transferred?
So essentially they will go over at their current book value.
Okay.
And then there'll be a mechanism in terms of the transfer of debt, the outstanding debt.
Yeah.
And that debt transfer, there's various options that are being looked at the moment. Our proposal at this stage will be to novate the debt at that point of time, and we'll work those numbers down over a period of time. There's work and discussions with LGFA in terms of those various options and what's going to be best for a startup entity. Gaining those resources and those funds, it's going to be quite a lot of resource and capital, working capital required for that. But there's work at the moment looking at funding, interim funding, to get that working capital up and running with local banks and that. Is there any other questions around the paper itself?
I had one with regards to the combined district plan and any potential risks that the team may be aware of. I've heard murmurings that there are other neighbouring councils who aren't happy with some elements of the plan. I'm just wondering if there is a risk to our council that all the years and money that's gone into this plan could be at a risk of being jeopardised.
to maybe bring in Sol, Solitaire, give some feedback.
Just to answer your question, at this stage, there is an expectation that the appeal process will go through as planned under Schedule 1. When you are doing a district plan that is going to take more than an election cycle, there is always a risk that newly elected members may come on and have differing views of what the rules are. That's why there was an independent panel set up. And at our last council meeting, we reappointed Councillor Della and appointed Councillor Burns to come on to the new panel to work through those appeals. At this stage, Marsden District Council and South Wairarapa are looking at putting that paper to their councils at their next meeting, which is in April. So I think at this stage, the appeals are quite narrow in the focus. There are some relating to rural subdivision, which is always that hot topic. And they're mainly from the likes of pet farmers and things like that, none from individuals. So I think it will just be working through that process. And if there is elected members in very different councils, even our ones that are not happy with those rules, I think sitting down, talking through the reasons why they're not happy, but also understanding that this is going to be a decision. All three councils do have to sign off the plan at the end of the day. And just because one person may not like it, the nice thing about local government is that's why you're a team of 9. There's other people around the table that do have a vote. Yeah. So I think we just proceed as per Schedule 1.
Thank you, Sally.
Right. Any further questions? If not, we have a mover and seconder for the recommendation on page 152.
I've got 156.
Oh, sorry.
Well, might move it then.
It's 156.
I'm happy to.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Insurance update.
Great paper.
Bit of good news.
I guess the purpose was around providing an update on the council's insurance coverage and key developments in the market as it's ensued since our last rollover of the premium. It's been very pleasing to see that the market's, I guess, been in a quite a soft state, and it looks like it's trending that way a little bit more into the future, which will have a great impact on our renewals for this year coming up, and possibly in a couple of years going forward. We continue to use LAP, the Local Authority Protection Program, for our underground assets. That's the majority of our assets. And I guess the insurance across the board will still be impacted by your sort of natural hazards, natural weather events and hazards and that. We've outlined, I guess, some of the changes in the coverage and the levels to our existing premiums and policy. There's a table there of sort of the movements between year on year with the premiums and what coverage is on our actual assets at the moment. So I guess if there's any questions from the committee.
Regarding underground assets, I assume it's just really earthquake was the biggest risk there, because a lot of it where you have broken pipes could come from just wear and tear, which wouldn't be insured, right? So what would be an event whereby we would claim on insurance for underground infrastructure?
It would be a significant event.
Like an earthquake?
Yep. So
Slide.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if it was a massive earthquake and all our pipes got broken, could they afford to, pay out?
If you could ask Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened there.
Yeah.
Yes. And they may not rebuild them exactly as they know.
Right.
I think there's certain threshold levels that they've got in terms of the premium or the cap.
That must also then have a reflection on the premium we pay for it as well. And I assume it's a fairly high premium. Well, what is our most expensive assets to insure? Can I ask that, Gina?
Have a look at the sheets.
177.
Yep.
46 million. So the premium is about 156K.
Oh, right, yeah, there it is, yeah.
The only concern about this is when we set the rates this year, we won't be able to claim rising insurance costs.
No, you won't.
No.
It's a rate reduction year.
We require, anyone like hiring at one of our facilities, they carry insurance, liability insurance, so it's not made on us. Is that right?
Yes. So we've,
In terms of coverage.
It varies depending on what's what, but most people that hire the main get their own insurance.
Right.
Package.
I
But different.
think that's fairly normal now, isn't it? Yeah. But our insurance can claim on their insurance, I guess. Be the issue there.
I had a couple of questions with regards to that table of our asset breakdown. One was with regards to our water assets and the insurance premium that we're paying, that I'm assuming will leave our books when we lose the water assets
That's
to the
correct.
entity.
that's
Will it be when we lose the ownership of the asset or when we don't have the debt? Would we still have the insurance?
when we transfer the asset, it'll be with the
It'll
asset.
go then.
Yep.
Great. And it mentions 29 Holloway Street as still being insured. I thought we'd culled that off the insurance last time, but maybe that was,
I thought we had as well.
but it's still listed as $3,000 of insurance covering that. So that was just one that I
Have
just
a
wanted
look
to
at-
flag.
It might be the timing. I just.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And then the other one was with regards to the conversation we had before about our risk appetite. I'd be really interested in talking as a council in a workshop around our risk appetite with regards to our insurance levels. Our biggest one there being the event centre, $56,000 premium. And just looking at whether or not the sum that's insured is solely based off the value of the building, or if there's a way that we as a council would feel comfortable at a different level of insurance in order to find savings in insurance premiums. I know that insurance companies will tell you what something's worth and they'll suggest we insure it at that level, but obviously as the owner, we can have our own level of comfort around what we insure these things for. And I just wonder if that's worth a conversation as well when we have that look at our appetite for risk.
Or adjust the excesses.
Excesses.
So that we took on a little bit more
Yeah.
liability potential for excess, but reduced cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, insurers don't really like you under-insuring things.
No.
Or they're likely to apply an averaging clause. So if you insure half the
Have a-
value, they'll pay half the claim. So, so something
Yeah.
to be careful about.
I was just thinking about with regards of obviously we had a successful claim with our roof here. And thinking about the proportion of that versus the cost of what it would have been to us fix it, when we're paying 56,000 every year to have it insured, and then the roof comes off once every 10 years. Well, you know what I mean? There's a weighing up.
Don't you do that middle every second year?
Possibly.
But you've raised,
Cost a fair hunk of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you've raised a good point though. It's often overlooked, the excess. And when you think of the council, it's got the ability to carry large exit,
Yeah.
in an individual.
Yeah.
And that might be worth looking at.
Mm.
And similarly, your brokers can help with structuring. Are you in any collectives?
No, so we're with Marston and Colleton. So it's just,
So
just the two guys.
Wairarapa Collective for insurance.
Okay. Is there any benefit in going further afield than that?
South Wairarapa were in, and then I believe they exited
at
some stage.
That's probably a benefit.
It's just that often the collectives, the bigger they can be, the more benefit they can access.
Economy of scale.
Yes. And also because you've got an inherent risk spreading effect built into that, the structure of that. And not all the assets are in one location.
With the event centre, 56 is certainly a big sum, but now that we've made a claim, do we lose a no claims bonus? In other words, will that now go up?
I'll have to find that out. I'm not sure. Yes. Yes.
Commercial premiums don't have a claims bonus other than, so, no.
Oh, right, okay. But they can get to a point where they say, we're not insuring you anymore.
Correct.
Yes.
Before the premium goes up. What we have found, so just on the event centre, I'll discuss it a bit. So that claim for the roof was quite significant.
Over 300,000. Yep.
Yeah, so I know Mark's got the number behind that now. It's that claim because it does bring home to roost, our premium's $56,000, but we could have, we claimed in the last year significantly more.
Yeah. So it's been in excess of 300,000. We just paid 28,000 portion, which was the small element of the roof that wasn't damaged. But we thought it was prudent then to do the whole roof at the same time, rather than
Well, we paid for part of it, didn't we? The insurance paid for one part, we paid for the remainder.
We agreed to fund up to $40,000 worth of additional work to complete the whole roof rather than just do the piece that insurance wanted. That's come through at $28,000, so it's less than what we anticipated, which is really good.
Yeah.
The entire claim was in excess of $300,000 for the total repair.
Because of the scaffolding and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the wrapping.
So worthwhile to have insurance in this.
Have you got any sense of whether, is the roof of a bad design and so another event could actually cause it to happen again? Do you know?
I'd have
Another wind event?
get some feedback, but I think it's quite well secured now. I think it's
The design is a very similar commercial design with a butanol roof and the parapet, the edge of it. So the issue was when we went underneath the parapet and got under the flashing, and that allowed the
Right, so that was the cause. Now that's been mitigated. Good to know.
And just with regards to the holiday park, I'm assuming that insurance cost gets covered by the lease arrangement we have there.
I would, you get the income, you get the income come
Yeah.
through from that. So there's essentially an offset.
Yeah.
This sits in different lines. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a mover and seconder to receive the report?
Sorry, going back, we've got halls here, Belvedere Hall. Who owns that?
We do, don't we?
No,
We don't.
No.
So why are we got
We're
a
not.
liability for it?
I'm sure we're not still insured.
I guess these were set up, I suppose, right, sort of in May last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just a time.
No more questions? Are you moving, Simon?
Oh, might as well. So you're looking my way?
I just saw your finger move.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you. Grace, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you.
Have I had a report not accepted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Happen. But
Treasury report.
So from Treasury's perspective, we engage PwC, who are sort of advisors from our debt perspective, and send through various analysis on a sort of regular basis. It gives us an overview of our borrowings and compliance with Treasury policy, and monitors the interest rates and exposure and our debt maturity profiles on that. It's great to see that we still remain within our approved policy limits, and there's not been that much movement since, I guess, close out of the financial year last year. So we're still maintaining an overall external debt of 27 million, with internal borrowings for what I believe was for the wastewater project, We've got 7 million in internal borrowings that's incurred there. Not much else to report on that. If there's any further questions on
Do you
that.
use PwC to review your treasury policies?
Yes, we do.
When was that last done?
I am not sure.
It was definitely last triennium. I cannot pick a date, but it has been in the last 3 years. I believe it might have come up to the committee when we considered the investment in terms of reference, but it is definitely within the last 3 years.
Thank you.
And it's something we'll need to look at with the transition out of the waters element of the debt,
Yes.
in terms of what those risk profiles look like on the going forward basis.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. No questions?
I've got a question, probably more a workshop question rather than actually to do with this. But when it comes to internal versus LGFA borrowings, when we loan to ourselves, is that in preference to LGFA? Like we use our own reserves first, and then if we do, are we charging market rate to ourselves for interest and things like that?
It'll be an internal market rate, I would suggest.
Right. Do we have a preference for internal before we go to external? Or why have we got some in one bucket and some in another? How does that work?
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. So where we have surplus cash, start back at Treasury Management, we like to keep approximately 2 months worth of expenditure as cash, and that's approximately $3 million. So we like to hold that as cash reserves for payment bills and all sorts of things, which is prudent. When we have surplus cash above that, we will use that cash before going to LGFA and borrowing more cash for payment of supplier invoices. So in that case, we will generate internal loans for those invoices or for the projects that need to be paid, funded. Using that surplus cash, and that will be at the same rate that we would have borrowed at LGFA, so that the project doesn't get a benefit or has some kind of burden. It is on exactly the same terms as what we would have borrowed.
Our liability is then based on what we get from what we loan from LGFA. Our own internal funding is not counted as a liability, because it's our own reserves anyway, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
For LGFA, it's not counted as a liability. We will show it. We're calculating, for example, the debt on waters. So there will be two lines of debt. There will be external debt and internal debt. And when we're transferring over waters, and both will go. But when we consolidate our accounts, it disappears, and we end up with just the external borrowing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Just to follow on, because I've not thought about it before, with the internal debt, do we have term dates? Is there sort of a end date on these policies, or you could just keep running it?
All of our debt runs at a P&I, principal and interest repayment, and I think it depends on the asset, but it will. We have a maximum life of 20 years, I believe, depending on the asset, and there will be a principal and interest repayment charged against that activity over that term.
I have a question just with my investment committee hat on. It's kind of not clear to me from the numbers that are here whether we have some money that is currently on term deposit, which we could consider putting into the managed funds program, bearing in mind that that's effectively at call, so it doesn't really affect our ability to
liquidity stuff.
Yeah, I know you've got to have a 3 to 5 year horizon, otherwise bad things can happen on day one and feel silly. Just wonder if we can get you to have a look at what we're holding and whether some of that could be put into the committee.
We also need to look at sort of the minimum, what Jeff was referring to as a minimum sort of cash threshold.
Absolutely.
Which have been depleted to the extent that we bought that piece of land at 1 hour. So most certainly can look at.
We borrowed for that, didn't we? That was a loan.
the intention was, and we had sufficient cash, so that's Councillor Casey's question, we used cash first.
Right, and internal line.
So we read that to ourselves, okay.
Yeah.
So those funds aren't included in the cash, like reserves. That's different, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Because the other issue, of course, is we're going to spend $2.9 million at Carrington Park, so that presumably comes out of what we're holding.
Reserves, yeah.
Cash first,
Cash.
money in the savings account, we'll use it
Yeah.
before we go and lean on the mortgage.
Yep.
Okay, so you use money from the savings account. Now you're low, you need to top it up. How do you do that?
Debt funding.
Quarterly, it tops up through the rates invoices that go out. So Mark and the team manage the cash flow depending on, the invoices for Carrington Park are not all going to come in at once. They're going to come in over a period of time, so we'll manage that approach. But yeah, we will understand whether or not there's a rates invoice due to go out and whether we're expecting a whole lot of income to come in. Otherwise, we will look towards LGFA to follow.
Right, so you could actually pay back some of the internal borrowings and then draw down from LGFA.
Sounds like we're creating work for accountants.
Yeah.
But
Don't want to do that.
we try and manage the cash the most efficiently that we can, because we can use internal borrowing. Ultimately, the cost to the ratepayer is low because we're not
paying external interest.
Yeah.
So,
We must certainly look at the profile.
Yeah. With that, I don't know what the answer is, but it's beneficial, and we should probably consider it.
Right. If there are no further questions, can we have a mover and seconder to receive the report and to note the Treasury position and compliance with policy limits?
Happy to move.
Thank you. Steve?
I can see.
Thank you, Grace. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Update on draft annual plan.
So at the last, we had a workshop regarding, I guess, the proposal in terms of whether we go to consultation or not for the annual plan. And the main criteria that was considered was whether we 50% loan fund the depreciation fund rates on water's element, whether that would trigger anything of significance. And we went back and had a look at it is not of significance nature in terms of the significance and engagement policy. And there's no material change in service levels on us doing that. It was ascertained that it was not necessary to go to consultation for that, and had an impact of sort of a 5% impact reduction of where the rates were sitting at 12.3%, had a 5% reduction impact going forward. So that's basically that was the main area that we sort of looked at from that perspective at the workshop. And we're just working through the fees and charges implications at the moment. I think we spoke about the CPI increase attached to that, and looking at the legislative impacts, the areas that we can't actually change because they're subject to legislation, and sort of looking at, from the regulatory perspective, what we can do with the development, the contributions, and that from that side. So the team are looking at that at the moment, and we look at sort of bringing a paper back to council for consideration at the next council meeting on the 1st.
Any questions? Not, can we have a mover and seconder, please, to receive the report and note the mitigated risk of no formal consultation?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Jane.
Second.
Thank you, Simon. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Health and safety.
My favourite.
This is favourite. Let's say about that, guys.
Now I'm looking at you.
So presuming everyone has read the report, so I'm happy to, would like to take it as read. Anyone has any questions?
Nothing of significance stands out for you at all?
No, nothing, no, there's no big swings or spikes or anything like that. So no, I think we're doing all the mahi and getting all the systems in place, making sure we're doing the pre-checks and making sure people are reporting hazards. So the reporting at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. So that's what we're trying to do.
You're getting compliance from staff?
Yes, we are. Some of them take a bit more of a push than others just because there's a bit
Wouldn't
of
be the older ones, would it?
couldn't say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've all got the apps on their phone so they can do their take fives and things and their vehicle checks on there. So it's just a matter of getting in the habit of people doing those things.
Just a question with regards to our earlier meeting or earlier paper where Simon talked about pressure on staff following the emergency situation. Is that something that you've been having to deal with in your space? And are you comfortable with where people are sitting and now, a couple of weeks out?
So we've got our EAP service. Some people will choose to use that and others don't. We're never really sure who uses that until further down the track, but we did have a debrief and as Simon said, the focus on that was getting the what do we do from here? But the focus, we sat down we had some individual meetings with people that came out of the centre, but we also, in our group session, debriefed. And the first thing we did was deal with the emotions that came out of it and some of the stuff that happened. So we got all of that out of the way and then started talking about some of the things that perhaps hadn't gone as well as they could have, and then the so what, and focused on solutions. So I'd say probably half that meeting was sharing the experience and for a lot of people in that room, and there's a couple of those people here that were at that meeting. It was the opportunity to share and make sure that, people knew they weren't alone and feeling that was a very high pressure situation. We have done that. That was really important. And I think that's something we'll do after any time that we've had to stand it up. Yeah.
Question regarding to when you hire contractors, you take them on the basis that they have a health and safety plan as well.
Yes.
But how low does that go? I mean, like if you order a taxi, are you going to require to see their health and safety plan before you can use them, or a catering company?
I can't answer on the taxi one. Does anyone else have?
Well, probably don't have taxis.
Yeah. I was going to say we're in Carlton, we don't have taxis.
I'm thinking for minor contractual, it's quite an administrative thing to have to go through, which could be for a very minor service.
Yeah.
And is it out of proportion?
Well, most people that are registered as a business or set up a business will have a health and safety plan. So I would imagine even if we had people coming in to use these rooms, they're going to have their own safety plan that they'll adhere to.
Do you demand to see that?
Part of site-wise.
Right. And people hiring the syndrome, they might be able to answer that more given their health and safety plans of some people that are hiring.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So we do that, and we do that for event managers. So there's events happening, parts and concerns, they've got their health and safety compliance.
Yeah, what about, say, voluntary groups who want to use a hall or something like that? Do they have to have one as well?
The things don't sit with us as council, they sit with other.
I'm thinking of like the courthouse.
Not for a meeting as such, that would then come under council safety.
Okay, right. So it's defaults to the council's one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's of a certain level or commercial, then they have to have it themselves. Okay. Yeah.
Anything else? Safety, well-being.
When did you do your last self-assessment of compliance with the Act?
Well, that's ongoing as part of Jodie's job is to assess against the Act and assess our compliance.
And so there's no issues that this committee needs to be made aware of?
Not that I am aware of, no, unless there's something,
Nothing.
Yeah, but no, nothing that we're aware of.
Can we minute that, please? Good. If there are no further questions, can we have a mover and seconder to receive the report? And can we also have a mover and seconder to go into PX, please?
Oh, it was on my paper.
Oh, sorry.
For water.
Right. Just have the health and safety.
Yeah, I can move that.
Thank you, Grace.
Second.
Thank you, Jane. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you very much. Local water done well.
Council.
Good afternoon.
Nice being here.
This is fun.
I'm going to take the report as read. There is a number of conversations we've had on local water done well. The only update that I'll provide is expecting the stakeholder forum to meet tomorrow. I believe they're scheduled to meet tomorrow to consider director appointments. Following the recommendation, Sheffield will be tasked to undertake reference checking. I'll look to make director appointments towards the end of this month, with those directors going through an induction plan in early April. The possible change that may occur, I think I referred to in the paper, is the request around the stakeholder forum making a decision on the chair of the board and whether or not they want the board to make the decision. There are risks and benefits with both. Certainly the board is coming in fresh, whereas the stakeholder forum has been across this for the last 5 years. It may make more sense for the stakeholder forum to appoint the chair, but it would also encourage the board to be more cohesive in terms of their norming regime to appoint the chair themselves. So I don't know where the forum will land on that question. But happy to take questions.
Thank you. I have a general question. I mean, this fundamentally looks like what we talked about at council 2 weeks ago. I just wonder why this paper's here.
There are risks that it's probably worth discussing here that may not be discussed in council. So the risk that we don't appoint a board early on is, I think we need to consider. And the reason for that is there are some big decisions around systems, around operations, around appointment of chief executive and the management team, etc., that the board will need to get on with. And the risk that we face is councils make those decisions on behalf of the board, who's not yet appointed, and the board doesn't agree with them when they finally get there. So there is this timing risk with getting the right people on board, bringing them up to speed, and then having them make some quite strategic decisions about the future of the business they're going to manage when they're rapidly coming up to speed. So that is most certainly a risk, because all of this will end up on their plate. They will be responsible, and they may consider that that will be a heavy burden on them. So certainly that's a risk from our perspective. The other risk that I think we need to consider is the workload forward for the project team is quite material, and the time frame that we have left is rapidly reducing on us. So 15 months left in order to make this happen. If we're talking the parallel system go live, we've got maybe 13 months, maybe 12. The preference is for a go live with the systems from 1st of April, so a parallel run where council system and the new water entity system are running in parallel for a period of 3 months, so that we make sure that the same data going in turns up with the same data coming out, or the same results out.
that I think I described that to the CEOs as quite a heroic work program. And we might need to consider how we manage those risks as we get further and further into this calendar year.
I was just looking at the hierarchy. Administrators versus council, but
in terms of our strategic projects, this keeps me awake at night.
yes. I think because of that, it's appropriate that it comes to this committee.
A while ago, Jeff, you mentioned like another risk of the initial setup costs starting to blow out. I haven't got it in front of me. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I wonder if there's any further update on that.
Yes, and I don't anticipate that we will require any more than the $5 million that the 4 councils have contributed.
Okay.
What I do anticipate is that the board will be responsible for a number of decisions beyond that $5 million that they will have to own.
Yep.
And that will be on their balance sheet and their borrowing. So I think there's 2 pieces. We'll have to contribute our 1.25 in the interim, so probably over the next 6-12 months. Beyond the 1.25, there is a bunch of things. So the directors' insurance liability, we're just talking insurance. Directors' insurance is probably not something that our council's planning on paying. The directors should pay that themselves. So there is a lot of cost that needs to go to the water services entity because these are their decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not anticipating more than coming to council and seeking more funding. But we do need the board in place to make their own, cut their own cloth.
I had a question that sort of follows on from that with regards to your concerns around the digital amalgamation of all these software systems.
Heroic amalgamation.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, is there any input left for councils to be advising this board on ways that we could make that less of a scary endeavour? Or is that sort of out of our hands now and it's now up to the governance of this entity to make those decisions and we just watch and chew on our fingernails while it happens?
Watch from the distance.
Yeah. That's cut off.
Well, the chief executive, these 3 layers, there's 4 actually. So there's the project team who are working on this and they have got a digital partner who they've appointed that will help work through the digital systems and all of those really gnarly, why do you call it street and ours is ST and, all of those difficult data issues. Then there's the project team with Catherine Mehrman, who you've met, who's managing the project. Above the project team is the project steering group, which is the chief executives. Then we have the stakeholder forum and soon to be in place the board.
The stakeholder forum is what Brian's on.
Brian and Rachel is the alternate. So all of the digital systems to date have come up from the project team up to the CEs, and we've agreed a strategy around the digital systems. And that strategy is based on cost, is based on solution, and is based on time. What we are attempting to do is where there is 2 or 3 councils that have a system that currently works, that is able to be transposed into the new entity, we will pick up that system, potentially not what I call the instance of it, so not our colour, not our, or the way we've customised, but it will be that system, so the same system, and build a new instance of that in the water services entity. So things like, is it GIS is a really good example. We all use the same GIS mostly. So we're going to pick up the instance of GIS, create a new instance in the water services entity, and everyone will transfer over to that. So the chief executives have walked through those decisions and we have a recommendation for the systems, and that recommendation is being worked on by our IT partner
Yeah.
Blue Beacon, and then that recommendation will go to the board of the entity to say, here is what we recommend your systems are. Do you approve all of these software installations? And that's the commitment to make it happen.
Yeah. So if we have some aspects of computer systems where each of the 4 councils have a totally different program that they use.
And we do.
And in those examples, how do you choose which is the best one? Is it based on results? Is it based on price? What way is it?
It's based on functionality and the investigation that Blue Beacon, our partner, has done that says we think this instance will be the best sort of solution for your water services entity.
Yeah.
Some of the systems we may not wish to transfer, and I don't want to get into individual systems because that's individual software suppliers, and I don't want to say we like this one and we don't like that one. But there are instances where we have multiple software systems. Payroll's a really good example. We all use different payroll systems, and so we've gone to our IT partner Blue Beacon and said, what do you recommend works best with the other IT systems that we're going to implement for payroll? And we're taking their recommendation on that.
Would billing be another one? I mean, for ARC, have we been billing? I mean, a lot of it is paid for by the rates, isn't it? Water services up till now. So billing is a new.
Yeah. So the crunchy ones, the 2 big crunchy ones are customer and billing. So that this is what you would traditionally call an enterprise, ERP. The big system that does your finance, customer and billing engine. And we are different, and we are looking at a new instance of a new software for ERP because it is so different.
It's billing different to how we do it now.
It's very, very different. Whereas GIS, it's the same for us, and it's the same for the water entity, and so it's quite easy to just build a new instance of that.
When it comes to things like that billing, that would be the same problem for all the other entities that are being formed at the moment as well. Is there discussion across entities about it as well?
Some entities have picked up the former DIA software package, which was Infor, quite a large, essentially a New Zealand-based water services software system. And it would have been used by the Wellington entity. So where there was the large Wellington entity and had councils involved, would have been Infor. And I know EOI, which is Waikato, are also using Infor, and they are in partnership with Western Bay or Tauranga, one of the two, somebody further, slightly east from Waikato, about doing exactly that. So both having Infor and using a slightly different instance, but one solution for both of them. In terms of us, that's quite an expensive solution for the number of customers that we have. So we don't think it's going to work as well for us. It's really good for large customer volumes and where you've got big metros, which we don't have. And yes, I'm watching you, Robin Blue. I see you online there. You're meant to be on leave.
Just to remind you that of saying flying a plane while you're building it, and so you just think like the pay thing, trying to got different pay systems, which is going to work the best,
Pay is probably the one that I would do first. This is the quickest way to upset your workforce is to mess around with pay.
Next week.
The one that's Nova Pay. Has anyone heard of that?
Vaguely familiar.
Yeah. So paying your staff is first. Paying your suppliers, I would be next, and then probably your revenue engine. It may be that we end up with them relying on councils to do billing for a period of time once they go live. That would be an easy, last minute, oops, we can't make it. We already have the customer information in our rating database, so.
Just got another question, just thinking about the reason why we're talking about this now in terms of risk and assurance committee. So going back to your earlier comment about the fact that the project represents a high workload for the team at the moment. And then also thinking about the presentation by Taumata Arawai this morning, is there any risk that the workload of setting up this entity risks our water services or water quality in terms of the team struggling to do like the business as usual and the extra?
Well, the handover period, I guess.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's a great question because our community have a good quality of service at the moment, and they have high expectation that that will continue, and so they should. The pressure is coming on the ELT, Lawrence, Mark, Jerry, in terms of the workload at this stage. As we get closer to the time frame, it will impact a little bit on staff, and there is concern around particularly staff transferring and whether or not their terms and conditions will transfer, and that they will have a job. Their location is a key element.
Jumping out.
Where's the depot?
Yeah.
Or how many depots are there, and those sorts of things. At this stage, the pressure is on the ELT, and we think that as we get more and more workload, we will augment by bringing in external resource to help with relieving that pressure. So I don't expect it to drop below ELT, but I do expect us to have to support particularly Lawrence and Mark and Jerry / Vicky with their work streams that will ramp up over time.
I think too is that, again, and it is a good question, because if anything does go wrong, it won't be the new entity that's blamed, it'll be us. And,
Yes.
And you've got to be very, aware of that. Yeah. Another question for you. You mentioned before, and we're moving it over. And I don't know if there's been any progress on it, but having one group move over first, right, followed by the others, rather than everyone all together.
Yes.
Has that been progressed at all? So who would that be?
No, it hasn't been. It hasn't been progressed. So that's a potential risk mitigation in the event the project needs to de-scope or have more time before they go live. So at this stage, I haven't progressed it any further. It would be a decision in conjunction with the other CDs.
I beg we don't go first.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, there's a good thing and a bad thing. If you go first, in some ways, if you get the most stable one going first, then there's a high risk of success. But of course, you also don't know what you don't know, and you could expose yourself to some risk there, and therefore to some backlash from your ratepayers.
We've just gone first, we've fixed our pipes.
We have. That's exactly right. Just on ongoing first, so we're proposing to go live on the 1st of July 2027. Some organisations are going live on 1st of July 2026. So Wellington will go live in 2026, and Eowai, Waikato, are going live in 2026. And I'm watching them quite closely because they will really be cutting the path for the rest of us to deal with debt transfer, customers.
So you'd think you go with a small group first, to limit anything that could possibly go wrong.
Isn't it pretty big needs to do something differently, probably?
So yes, I'll watch the others who go first.
Yeah.
Great.
I had a question with regards to risk with mentions in the financial and commercial part about staggering the debt and how some councils have a greater desire to get the debt off their books than others, and the risk that places on Carterton, who doesn't have the desperate need to get rid of our debt because we have such a decent ceiling, the risk of us holding our debt for quite a lot longer than other councils, and the fairness of that, and the potential ramifications that could come on our council being the ones who are holding debt long term. It just feels like we're losing our asset, but we're keeping the debt, and I just wouldn't keep my mortgage after I'd sold my house. And so I feel nervous. So it doesn't feel like the most risk adverse approach.
Surely that couldn't be done without the agreement of the council, because otherwise that would be patently unfair.
Yeah, so you are correct. The challenges we face are blurred with local government funding agency and their covenants around a council guarantee and the debt transfer. So when the debt transfers, there is still a council guarantee over the covenant, not necessarily for the debt, but for responsibility.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to work, perhaps I could highlight the problem. When you fix your mortgage with your house, you fix at a rate, and then floating interest rates change. And if floating interest rates go up, you feel you've made a great decision. And if you break that mortgage, because for whatever reason you sold the house, you get this benefit. Whereas if the interest rates have dropped and you break, you get this massive charge because the bank is saying to you, I can't reloan that money to somebody at the same rate that I loaned it to you. I'm only going to get 2% instead of 5%, so I'm going to charge you for that break.
Yeah.
We're in exactly the same situation with councils and our debt. Some of the councils have fixed their interest costs. And so if we break them, there may be this crystallisation of the charge.
Yeah.
And wherever that lands, council or the water entity, that's bad for the ratepayer. So we're trying to mitigate that risk of crystallising a charge that we otherwise wouldn't have crystallised.
Yeah.
And that may see some councils transfer debt early and others wait until that debt reaches some kind of natural break in the mortgage.
Yeah, and that seems smart to not want to create these break fees across the board, but I would assume that that's not something you can blanket approach to all of the debt north or south of us, that they would be staggered in their deadlines as well. So it can't just be like, we have a problem, we need to get rid of our debt.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll manage it carefully. There's a lot of conversation to have around debt. The intention is once we go live, once we transfer the asset, our books will also show that there is no debt.
Okay.
That it all goes, whether it physically goes and it's still sitting in Cuttenden District Council's name because we've got this, we fixed our mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
it's physically off the books.
Yeah, it's physically, it'll be off the books.
Okay.
So it's not us paying the interest, it will be the entity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel a lot better.
Can I just ask a question, just for clarification? Got the stakeholders groups, that stays on after the entity starts, right? And does the board report to the stakeholders group?
Yes.
Right.
And the stakeholder group will set the statement of expectations and then that'll feed into what's lovingly called the water services strategy, which is essentially the long-term plan for the water entity.
Yeah.
So it's got a new name. It's not called a long-term plan because we've used that name, but so it'll be the long-term plan for the water entity, and the stakeholder forum will be the channel for that entity to discuss
our interest.
Exactly. So we go, we'd like to, I don't know, build a retirement village over there and we're putting 1,000 houses. We need to ensure that that's in our statement of expectations to the water entity so that they can deliver water and wastewater service, stormwater services to that area.
So what's the reporting line then from the stakeholder group to the councils that have divested water activities?
Yep, that'll be in the terms of reference for the stakeholder forum. So that's already been picked up as part of the constitution. So we'll come back. I see the statement of expectations. I know we've got a workshop coming up on that in April, I think, or maybe May. The project team are planning a workshop with all of the councils around statement of expectations to help you understand what it is that they're looking for and also set your expectations of the water entity. And then it will come up for decision in around June. So that'll be the statement of expectations, and then we will have a water services strategy that will be delivered by the board in about December.
One question came up ages ago. I don't know if it's been resolved. I don't know if it affects us. We're we're below a certain threshold, I think, but was it Burl or some economic group anyway said that not so fast councils in terms of you've been free from liabilities because you own the water entity. In effect, that's any debt they have is going to affect you and your borrowing capability. Does that affect us at all?
It would have been Standard and Poor's.
Standard and Poor's, that's right.
So, and they're a credit rating agency, and where there is a council-controlled organisation, they're usually consolidated for credit rating purposes and debt. We don't have a credit rating in Canada, so it won't
Doesn't
really
affect us.
impact us.
Right, it's the Aucklands and the Wellingtons and
The water services entity may decide to get a credit rating, and that may lower their cost of borrowing because they'll probably have sufficient borrowing in order to justify a credit rating. I think it's I think my back of the envelope was you need about $50 million worth of debt. Might have been $70 million worth of debt in order to make a credit rating have value, because there is a cost associated with it and you get a benefit. So I think that break even is somewhere between 50 and
below that we get it from the LGFA.
We can still have a credit rating and borrow from the LGFA. It just lowers our borrowing cost. So the water services entity may want to get a credit rating, but we don't have one, so it doesn't really bother us.
Okay. Right. Can we have a mover and seconder to receive the report? Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Jane. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. That brings us to the end of the open agenda. So I need a mover and seconder to move into PX, please.
Past 2 hours. Do we need a, do we want to keep going?
We've probably have.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
What's this 2 hours?
Oh, after 2 hours, we don't have a break.
Oh,
But it depends when you go on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could cause me a problem with catching a plane. So can I ask that we
could push on, couldn't we?
Yeah, we'll push on.
Yeah.
I think that'll suit everybody except Katrina.
We need to move, do I'll move that we push on.
Well, let's do them one at a time. Can we have a mover and seconder to move into PX, please?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Steve. And I'll assume Grace, you'll second. And then can we have a mover and seconder to dispense with the 2 hour break and just carry on?
Yeah, I'll move.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Jane. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Carried. We're now on PX.
Yeah, secret squirrel now.